Alrighty. I don't know why that's face. There we go. Um, this is the second time I tried to record this. This is why I do it on my phone. It's so much simpler. Um, what I was talking about previous to this was at work. There's a guy. He's a Christian, and he's kind of works based a little bit in that he thinks he has to stay right. And I do this. And I talked to him, and the thought occurred to me while I was talking to him, and I said, "Okay, when you get to heaven, because you're going to go because you believe in Jesus and you've given your life to Jesus, and he has. He's. I don't want to like talk bad about the guy in any kind of way because he's a really great guy, but he works on doing the right thing all the time." And it's a work when you do that. When you're saved, you're saved. We are in the dispensation of grace, and there's a new dispensation that is about to begin once the rapture occurs. As soon as the rapture occurs, they will be as the thief on the cross. They will be as Jacob, Leah, and Rachel. Rachel is not the bride. Rachel is a wife, and so she's going to heaven, but she is not the bride. Leah is. They will be as Jacob and Esau, where Esau sold his birthright. Esau had every right, every single right to go to heaven, except he sold it. And Jacob put on the covering of Jesus and was now heir to being the bride. Okay, so I find this a lot when I'm talking to people in that they make the statement, no one's being left behind. And you're correct, no one is. Those who are as Elijah are, who already have the mantle on them, who have already got the covering of Jesus, who have put their faith completely in Jesus, as Elijah did, they're going to go. And what's left behind is Elisha. Elisha did not, and the story doesn't give us a complete explanation of what's going on, but Elisha somehow is not going with Elijah. He follows Elijah everywhere. He knows everything Elijah knows. But when it's discussed, don't you know that your master will be taken from you today? He says, yeah, I don't want to hear it, whatever. That's a lot of what we're seeing today. So I'm talking to this guy, and it dawns on me, let me ask him this question. Now, he's going to heaven. When? I don't know. Does he miss heaven if he goes at a later time? No. There's this thought that comes around that I keep seeing nonstop, and it bugs me, and that is, if you don't go in the rapture, God's going to punish you for 7 years. Oh, and then he's going to throw you into a lake of fire. That doesn't even make sense. Literally makes no sense. Jesus died on the cross for your sins, and it's done. It's paid for. Just like Barabbas was up there in the top with Jesus. Jesus could have said, "No, I'm not doing this. He's the guilty one. I'm not doing this." He's God. He could have walked away, but he didn't. He stood there quietly, and so did Barabbas. You don't see one word in the entire Bible out of the mouth of Barabbas. He stood there quietly. Honestly, he was, in my opinion, in complete and utter shock that an innocent man was about to take his place, and that innocent man did not say one word. He stood there quietly, accepted the guilt of the whole world of what they thought they were getting rid of. They messed up. I mean, they didn't mess up because this is what God's intention was. He came at the right exact moment for the atmosphere of the people to want to crucify him. And it was the perfect moment. I don't think, well, I know if Jesus came today to do the same thing, they'd throw him in the loony bin, they wouldn't kill him. None of that would have happened. It had to happen at that time, exactly at that moment. And so I asked him, you go to heaven. You're going to heaven, right? He said, yeah, I'm going to heaven. I said, you get to heaven and your daughter's not there. Your mother's not there. Your father's not there. Or your son's not there. Or your cousin or your aunts or your uncles or your grandfather. All these people that you love aren't there. How are you going to feel when you get there? How are you going to feel? Are you going to enjoy heaven knowing that God is about to punish your family for 7 long years and then cast them into the lake of fire? Does that make any sense to anyone? Does anyone make any sense out of that whatsoever? And the answer is no. The reason for the tribulation is not to punish people. It is to make people repent and turn, just like Elisha did. He tore off the mantle. He tore off his earthly clothes and he put on the mantle. He realized as soon as Elisha was gone that he had missed out on something, but he got that mantle. Elisha said, if you see me go, if you believe when I leave, what just happened? And what just happened was the rapture of Elijah. If you believe, it's a perfect story. I mean, it's in there. That's why it's there. The Bible is a perfect story of salvation and how it works and the order of everything. And to state that when you're raptured, you've missed something, you haven't. There's this great multitude in Revelation 6, chapter 6, in the sixth seal, that appear in heaven. They just appear in heaven. And one of the elders, who are the elders? Are all of the elders? The elders are Leah. She was the older sister. It was not right for the younger sister to marry before the older sister. Elijah was the first to go. Elisha was the second. You have all of these wonderful examples in the Bible. Jacob's birthright, he was supposed to be second, but Esau sold the birthright to Jacob, and now he has the covering. So it's not about age. It's not about how old you are. It's about when you were saved, when you turned to Jesus, when you tore off the earthly possessions. I've done this, I've done that, I've been this, just like the rich man that walked up to Jesus, prideful in his own pride, and said, I've done everything I'm supposed to. I've kept all the commandments, everything perfectly, from all 10 commandments. I've kept them all. And Jesus said, okay, go sell everything and follow me. Jesus knew his sin. He was not sinless. He was not covered by the blood of Christ. Is that man who did all of these things, so much more than we have several levels of people, right? We have the bride. We have this great multitude that no man can count. They're called the saints of the tribulation. And then there's these people that have no faith whatsoever. They're going to be completely buffaloed by what happens by the federal government telling them, oh, they were aliens, or it was a nuclear blast that disintegrated them. They're getting a bazillion phone calls, and nobody's going to get any answers because of all of the calamity that's going on at that moment. So I go back to my story. I digress back to my story. I talk to him and I say, how are you going to feel at that moment? He's like, oh, I'm going to be happy. I'm in heaven. I says, true. But what about your family? What would console you if you were the bride and you were raptured? What would console you instantly? Jesus walked up to you and said, your loved ones are going to be here, but they needed a little bit more. I needed to bring them. And the Bible says that I chasten those that I love. You're living in a form of tribulation. We're not in tribulation, but you're living in a form of it, in that you'll notice in your life when you go down the wrong path, something terrible happens. And then you see these other people that they can do anything they want, break every law, steal everything, be completely depraved. And somehow they win all the time. They always win. And then here you are, you break one little infraction of something and you're called to the carpet on it. I mean, it's hard to explain, right? Except that God is chastening you. God is waking you up and you're realizing, oops, I messed up and I deserve this punishment. The same thing in the tribulation. These people are going to see us go. They're going to tear off all of their good works, and they're just going to trust in Christ. And that's all they need. That's all they ever needed. So the concept of a partial rapture is not true. Everyone who is in Christ, who has no works behind them, who cannot boast, no one's going to heaven with a prideful attitude stating they did something and that's why they're there. It cannot happen, and it will not happen. You will get there completely like Barabbas, quietly shocked that you're there. And immediately Jesus will walk up to you. It'll be the warmest feeling you've ever had. It'll be like your best friend or your husband or your wife or your child or whatever. It'll be the greatest hug you've ever felt. And he's going to tell you it's okay. They needed a little more work, but they're coming here. And it's a great multitude that no man can count. I'm guessing in the billions of this group of people that show up in the sixth seal. So currently, we are waiting for that moment of the rapture. We're constantly trying to figure it out. I've done timelines and maps. I've done this for years, lots of years, but I've never lost hope, and I've never felt like I should stop. I've backed off because no new revelation had come to me, but here in the last 2 years, it's been incredible. The things that I have found, what I have built on this timeline is exactly what I tried to do years ago, but we couldn't see it. We couldn't see all of this stuff. And with the help of so many other wonderful YouTubers who are out there who are trying to figure this out and the different ideas, and I'm not saying mine's right by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not saying mine's right. I'm just saying this is what I'm looking at as far as when these events of the Bible fall. And when they fall on this timeline, they fall perfect. So let me go back to this. Where was I? Here. This picture here explains as best as I can explain. The harpazo will happen. We will be caught up in the clouds, and we will be given brilliant white robes. They will be brilliant white. They are as brilliant white and perfect in every way that they can possibly be, based on what Jesus has done, not based on us, not on any works that we've ever done, not on being good or bad. Only that somehow there is. I heard a teaching the other day, and he put it like this. He said, we're all elect. Everyone's going to heaven is elect, but there is a select group of people that will be chosen out of the elect to be the bride. So we will escape all these things, very clearly written in the Bible that we will escape all these things. We have the number, the amount of people that this group will be, and we find that in Revelation. It's 10,000 times 10,000 and thousands upon thousands. We are Leah and we are Barabbas. We are the 5 virgins with oil. All 10 are virgin. All 10 have some oil. 5 of the virgins had extra oil. They're almost identical in every way, and they are all going to heaven. The bride is going to heaven, and quickly behind that, the saints are going to heaven. Now, the saints, I wrote gathered, but that is not accurate. The saints are also raptured. They are harpazoed out of here. This is old, and I've learned a lot since then. The gathering, if you'll read in the Bible, when you read where it says gathered, these are over on the right-hand side, the millennial reign. These people are gathered we gather them as we return with Jesus Christ on a brilliant white horse with a rod of iron to rule the nations. And we will return, and Jesus will gather them, and they will go into the millennium to repopulate the earth. They are those, the parts of the threshing room floor. This is the very last parts. Whenever they harvest a field, the first thing they do is the first fruits. They go in and gather the best, and they bring it in and they check it and test it to make sure everything is ripe and is ready to go. Then they go make this massive harvest of the entire field, and they're done. They've got the harvest, they've sold all that. And the last part is the corners and edges. They go back in manually and pull these corners and these edges, the harvest from the corners and the edges. There are 3 from what I can tell. Now, I've seen others say that there are actually 3 raptures and not 2. I cannot find the 3rd. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I have all these examples of, the first fruits, and then I have the examples of the main harvest, and then the examples of the corners and the very ending of it. And you have this example written throughout the Bible. And these people inherit the earth, and you'll meet them. They're everywhere. I've talked to several of them. They don't want to go to heaven. They don't mind going through the tribulation. They're going to tough it out. And at the end, they are going to inherit the earth, which, just incidentally stating, the earth is actually has a expiration date of 1,000 years. So I don't know why anybody would want to inherit the earth, but there are those that do. They are still human. They have not been given eternal, everlasting, non-destructible, non-perishable bodies. They are human, just like us. They can die. During this, you'll read this in Revelation, these people must eat of the 12 trees that grow along the river. Every month, there's 12 trees, 1 tree per month. And if you don't eat from this tree, you will age and you will be sickly. There will be no need for doctors and hospitals in the millennium, because they'll get sick or whatever, and they'll simply eat of one of the 12 trees and they will be renewed. However, at the end of the 1,000 years, the day that no man knows the day or the hour of, Matthew 24:36. If you'll take a moment and read Matthew 24:35, it'll show you that he's speaking to the end of everything. And what he's speaking to is that no one knows the day or the hour of the end of everything, the end of this planet. Satan will be loosed for a season, and he will be loosed to tempt all of those humans. He cannot tempt us. It'll be such a hard temptation that if it were possible, the very elect, who are the elect, they are the bride, and they are the saints, and they are the 144,000 Jewish virgin males, and these 144,000 Jewish virgin males will be here to warn the Jew not to follow this person. They, I believe, will be instrumental in the Jews to realize, number one, that the person that just walked into the temple and claimed himself to be God is not God, and not to receive the mark. And number 3, the 144,000, make them realize that the one they pierced 2,000 years earlier was in fact God himself, Jesus Christ, Emmanuel, God with us. And they will cry because they have spent 2,000 years denying who he is. I would ask everyone who's watching this to pray for Israel. Always pray for Israel, and always pray for their eyes to be opened. God loves the Jewish people, and the Jewish people, and everyone, I believe, it's mostly Jewish people that go into, that's a study that I haven't gotten into very well. So let me go here. Let me minimize this before I mess up. And let's see here. That's done. I've showed you this before. I just wanted to show you on here. Maybe you could see it a little bit better on the computer. So this is if you go outside of your house right now, every single week, on the same day of every single week, and take a picture of the sun with a filter, of course, you'll notice this is what the sun does. This is called the circuit of the sun. This is the movement the sun moves in our sky every single week. Every dot there is the sun moving 1 week. 52 dots, and that is the circuit of the sun. So I took the circuit of the sun. What did I just do with that? Let me put this down here. And I put it on a timeline here. Let me zoom in. Oops, I can't get too big. I guess I could. I'll just zoom in and come down here. Now, June 15th, I want you to notice that on the 15th of every quarter is when these events begin. We say that summer begins on June 21st, and we say that because it is the longest day of the year. However, it reaches, let me see if I can get closer. Yeah, right here. See that dotted line? That is 23.5 degrees. 23.5 degrees off center. Center is not where the 8 intersects. Center's down here at 0. Is it the 0 mark? I would assume it's at the 0 mark, although it doesn't. Yeah, it is. So, here it is. It's over here, sorry. 0 mark. So, but it enters into the Tropic of Cancer at 23.5 degrees on June the 15th. And on June the 30th, it leaves the Tropic of Cancer, 23.5 degrees. It gives us a total of 47 degrees of being offset. Now, during the flood, God took the planet, and Noah was in the ark. He would have had a huge wave, I'm sure, but God took it. Noah was going to begin his summer in September, but God did something. He either flipped the planet or he flipped the magnetic north. He did something at this point which stopped this date, September 15th, from being the head of the year to this date now being the head of the year. March 17th, actually, right here, March 17th, head of the year. The day of equal parts happens on March the 16th. Previous to the flood, the day of, actually currently the day of equal parts happens on September the 26th. This line that's here would be on this side going this way because the head of the year, or the center of the year, the 182 days later, would move to September the 26th. I don't know if I can explain that clearly enough, but it moved. At the flood, it moved. Again, down here, the Tropic of Capricorn. This is the bottom. 23.5 degrees is how far down the sun goes over our equator. It goes 23.5 degrees right here on the 15th, December the 15th. It enters the Tropic of Cancer, and here, December the 30th, it leaves the Tropic of Cancer. There's an extra day in here somewhere. That's why this is the 16th here instead of the 15th. There's an extra day that we find in here somewhere. And I've noticed that as I do my timeline that there's a day I can't quite reconcile. It keeps popping up. So again, December the 15th, December the 30th. We call December the 21st as the beginning a new cycle. Is when winter begins, but it actually begins back here on December the 15th when it enters the Tropic of Cancer, and 15 days later it leaves. 14 days later it leaves. So I thought I'd show you that just up close so you could see, what I'm working on right there. Now, if anybody goes into Discord, I put a link to Discord, but if anybody goes in there, I will post these timelines in Discord so you can take a look at them. All right, next. Let's get rid of that. I showed you this before, and September 23rd, 2017. We all know that date very well. That is the date of the Revelation 12 sign. 2,000 days later, exactly, falls March the 16th. March the 16th is the day of equal parts. It is the day I believe that the last Sabbath is. We have 10 commandments. Let me get out of this thing here. Let's see, where am I at? Am I here? Ooh, I'm here. Let's see here. Oh, there I am. Whoops. Okay. How do I do this? Right there. Okay. I've explained this before, and see if I can clarify it. We have 10 commandments. 9 of them, I'm not saying they're easy to follow, but we follow 9 of them. But when we follow this one commandment, when we follow the one commandment that says you will keep the Sabbath, you will keep it holy, you will rest on that day, and it will be a sign unto you. What do we say as the bride? We say, well, that's a work. Why is that one commandment we consider a work, while the other 9 commandments we consider something we should do? Because we shouldn't kill, we shouldn't steal, we shouldn't take God, the Lord's name in vain, we shouldn't cheat on our wives, we shouldn't covet our neighbor's stuff or their wives, and we shouldn't do any of that stuff. Those I'm not saying they're easy, but those are the commandments. So when God says to obey the Sabbath and you're just doing it every Saturday, you missed it. You missed it. You don't know when the Sabbath, it certainly isn't on the Gregorian calendar on Saturday or Sunday. It's just simply not true. It would be if they had set the year up properly, but would you tie a rope around your waist and walk into the Holy of Holies on the Sabbath when you're supposed to? Would you have that much faith in your Sabbath to do such a thing? I don't have that much faith in my Sabbath to do such a thing. But I do believe that the last Sabbath every single year is on March the 16th. Not enough to tie a rope around myself and to walk into the Holy of Holies. Not that much. But when I do that, when I do that, March 16th as being the last Sabbath of every year, and I start counting from there 7 days throughout the year, and it resets every year on March the 16th, the day of equal parts, the day the 4-star of Algenib skirts along the horizon in Jerusalem. On that day, every 7 days sets up the Sabbath for the rest of the year. You don't, in my opinion, you don't follow the moon. There's a strict warning from Enoch in the book of Enoch that following the moon, it came from the Romans. Was it the Romans, or I don't recall who it was, but it came from them that forced the Jews to start following the moon for their months. Did you know that the Latin Bible has translated, it's called a Chodesh, I don't recall what it's called, but it's called it's called the new moon, but it can also be translated as new month. And in the Latin Bible, they've translated it new month. So everywhere you see the word new moon in the English Bible, in the Latin Bible, I don't know that everywhere that's accurate. I don't want to say that as a finality, but they have translated as new month. And how would you know your new month? Well, I'll show you that in a second. March 16th is the last. I've showed you this before, but again, I wanted to show you this on a larger screen so you could see it better. March 16th is the last day of the year. the 364th day. Did you know there's actually only 364 days in a year? There's not 365 and a quarter. We don't take into account as the Earth spins, it also goes around the sun. Our Earth spins exactly 23 hours. It makes a revolution every 23 hours and 56 minutes. It falls 4 minutes short. And if you take those 4 minutes and you multiply it by 364, it is exactly 1 day. 1 day and a quarter, or 1 day and a little bit, I think. Yeah, I think it's 1 day and a quarter. But the Earth, we regulate our year as to us facing the sun, but it's not accurate, because as we go around, we spin and we go around the sun, and it is actually 364 days. It's called, I'm gonna forget right now. It is called sidereal. It's called sidereal. It is sidereal day. A sidereal day is 23 hours and 56 minutes. And that's why there's 364 days in a year. Many are saying that there are 360 because of the 1260 day count and the 1290 day count. And I can see that, so I'm not going to exit and say it's not true. But even Enoch said there are 360 days in a year plus 1 day for each gate. 4 gates. And I showed you the 4 gates on March the 15th, 16th, and December the 15th, and June the 15th, and over on the other side on September the 15th. So those are the 4 gates. That enters the 4 gates. And so here we have is the day of equal, and it's true. I mean, anybody can go to time and date, the day of equal, night and day in Jerusalem, with the sunrise and sunset times occurring at 5:48 and solar noon occurring at 11:48. This happens on March 16th, and it is the 7th day Sabbath, and it sets up the 7-day Sabbaths for the next year on both the Enoch calendar and the Gregorian calendar. I mean, because the Gregorian calendar does adhere to 7-day week, it is accurate in some fashion. Not that it lands, so I don't know. I haven't even looked. Let me take a look. What day this year will be the Sabbath? If you insist on following the Sabbath, let's go. This year, March 16th, is the last Sabbath, setting up the Sabbaths for the next year. And so what would be the next Sabbath? And that would be March the 23rd. If you were going to follow the Sabbaths, you would begin to follow the Sabbaths on March the 16th, March the 23rd, March the 30th. Ironically, March the 30th is when Jesus went to the cross, and it is a Sabbath. So that's just this year. Well, it's that every year. It's that every single year, but the date is a Thursday in the Gregorian calendar this year, and in 2022 it was actually a Wednesday, which did line up with the cross. Jesus went to the cross on a Wednesday. And so let me get out of here. Let's see, what did I look at here? Last Sabbath. Oh, right there. Okay, and then this is what I've spoken to you about. And again, let me enlarge it. That is down here, the 4th star of Pegasus, called Algenib. And this 4th star will skirt along the horizon in Jerusalem, in Israel, every March 16th, every year. Again, this is somebody else's work. And when I started researching this and trying to figure all this out, I was shocked that not only does the 4th star Pegasus skirt along the horizon on March 16th, but it's also the day of equal parts, which is incredible. And it does it again down here on September the 14th. And this is not the day of equal parts, not since the flood. Previous to the flood, this was the day of equal parts. Now it is September, I think it's the 25th or 26th. But when God shifted the planet, here it did not match. It was March the 26th when the day of equal parts was, and the 4th star of Algenib skirted along the horizon. So let's see here. You'll find this if you wanted to read this. It's in Enoch 74:12. Let me see if I can enlarge this a little bit. And the sun and the stars bring in the years exactly, so they do not advance or delay their position by a single day unto eternity, or till the end of the 1,000 years. And may possibly God will set similar situation up later, because we still have to follow all the feast days. So we're going to need a sign that 2 or 3 witnesses will witness, and a 4-star of Pegasus skirting along the horizon would be a very good sign. Maybe the moon will be back in alignment, and it'll tell us, and it'll be in perfect sync. But since the fall of man, none of this has been in sync except for the stars. They were given. You'll read that in Revelation. I believe the constellations were given first and said, "It is so," and then after that, he went in and created the sun, moon, and other stars. The book of you'll read this in Enoch 74:12, and the book of Jubilees, as we know, was commented in our Bible, says, "Was it not written in Jubilees?" So it's if our Bible's referencing it, there's nothing wrong with reading it. It is not a salvational book. Enoch or Jubilees is not a salvational book. That's why they are not in the Bible, nor do they belong in the Bible. The Bible is a book of salvation. Knowing this stuff does not save anyone. Knowing this stuff simply makes us aware of when certain events fall in place that we might see a rapture. We might not. I mean, we're just waiting. It could happen now. I can't imagine that it's going to go on much longer, honestly. I think this rapture is about to occur at any moment, and I believe that the cutoff point for me and what I'm seeing is March the 16th, the last Sabbath. I can't see it going past that. But then again, as I've gone through this over the last 2 years, Revelation just keeps flying in, just new information keeps flying in, and I put it on here and I keep adding it. And again, in Amos 3:7 and Revelation 3:3, it's very, very clear. God's not going to tell me to tell you. He's going to tell us, and we're going to know. We are going to know because he is going to tell us. In the meantime, we're going to dream like little children going to Disney World as to how far it is and how many more hours it is. And I need this, I want that. And we're going to be frustrated in the car all the way up to the point of when we get there. And according to the 10 virgins, we're still going to fall asleep before we get there. We're just trying to do our part and read the Bible and learn as much as we can and draw closer every single day. Enoch 74:12, and the sun and the stars bring in all the years exactly, and so that they do not advance or delay their position by a single day unto eternity, but complete the years with a perfect justice in 364 days, which again is accurate when you view a sidereal day. This is found in the book of Jubilees 2:16 through 17. And he completed all his work on the 6th day. All that is in the heavens and on the earth and in the seas and in the abysses and in the light and in the darkness and everything. And he gave us a great sign for the day of the Sabbath. What sign was that? I don't think it's the moon. It falls out of place every year by 10 days. That we should do work 6 days and should rest on the Sabbath from all work. And all the angels of the face and all the angels that cry holy to us. These 2 great kinds, he said, that we should observe the Sabbath with him in heaven on earth. Okay. Let's get it out of there. Now, let's go through the timeline. This is what I was excited about showing you, because now we can do this. And I don't know how big it is on your side, but that's about as big as I can do it without going over the screen. I'm going to have to go bigger. Hold on. All right. Down here on the bottom. Anybody can do this. It's very simple. After in Moses, in Exodus 12, God told Moses, this now is the head of your year. They ignored God. They are still looking over here at Tishri in September. This is not Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah simply means new year. This is not the new year. This is the 6-month point. This changed after the flood. As a matter of fact, Noah was experiencing winter over here in September. He was experiencing everything that we experience on this side. He was experiencing over here. He experienced that after the flood. Must have been very confusing for him. But after the flood, this was the head of the year. I'm sorry, previous to the flood, this was the head of the year. After the flood, this became the head of the year, just like God told Moses in Exodus 12. So Nisan now, what used to be the 7th month for Noah, Nisan now is the head of the year, or the first month for Moses. This month has 30 days. Ayar has 30 days. Sivan has 31 days. That is a gate. The gates, I showed you 4 gates. Here's the 4 gates, right here, right here. Okay, the day of equal parts, the day that the sun enters the Tropic of Capricorn, and the day the sun enters the Tropic of Cancer on the 15th. So these are the gates right here. Now, all I did was read that thing where it said March 16th is the last Sabbath, and March 17th, Nisan 1, is the head of the year. And all I simply did was, when the Bible said on Nisan 14, Jesus went to the cross, it was 14 days after March 17th, 14 days, Nisan 14, he went to the cross. Starting our year on March the 17th, he would have gone to the cross on March the 30th. If we could have an accurate calendar, we would know that he went to the cross on a Wednesday by today's count. By today's pagan count, he would have gone to the cross on a Wednesday on March 30th. You could almost go back to whatever year back there, 29, 30, 31, and see what day March the 30th lands on, and know that you're in the right year based on the fact that March 30th would land on a Wednesday. This is where we see the 4 star of Algenib. That is the last Sabbath of the year. This is how you can obey that command without, how do you say, that to obey the Sabbath is not to not work on the Sabbath. That is not it. It is trusting in Jesus, that Jesus did all of the work, and he did that on March the 30th, Wednesday. He rose on April the 3rd, Nisan 17. This is also when we count, remember, previous to the flood, this was the head of the year. And in the second month right there, and 17th day, in the month of Heshvan, the flood begins. The waters of the deep broke up. Let's go down to Heshvan, 17th. This is October the 31st or November the 1st. Late at night, the flood began. Now, I ask you, if this timeline is wrong, why do these types of things, if I start the year on March 17th and I count over here and I say, okay, Heshvan 17, so we have 182 days here, we have 30 more days here, and then we have 17 days here. And when you add all those together and you come down here to the flood, it's 229 days. If you take March 17th and you add 229 days to March 17th, you will fall on October the 31st, November the 1st. Always. There is a day glitch that happens around in here because of Joshua's long day. I still don't know exactly where to assign it. I move it around every now and again because I'm trying to find exactly, but there is a glitch that happens because of that long day. Here we are again. Remember back here, 14 days from the head of the year, Jesus is on the cross. 14 days from the head of the year, Jesus is born. We have 5 now. I just discovered it, and I told you that in the last video. We have 5 proofs that the date is accurate. The first day, the day that Mary got pregnant, the day she decided to travel to see her cousin, Martha. Was Martha? Was it Martha? No, it wasn't Martha. It was Elizabeth. Over here. The day she decided to go, the day she conceived, and the day she decided to go see her cousin Elizabeth, exactly to the very day, 40 weeks, 280 days, will land exactly here on September the 29th. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Jesus would have fulfilled his 40 weeks to the day. He would not have gone 282 days, 270 days, like, births happen now. They jumble around. But the perfect birth is exactly 40 weeks, 280 days. That is our first proof. And what day does that fall on? It falls on Christmas Day. You can't make that up. You can't force that to happen. That just happens. Proof number 2. Mary arrives at her cousin's house, Elizabeth, and John. Now back here, the Bible says that John was 6 months in the womb. When Mary gets to them, it is a Sunday. It is a Pentecost. And I'll show you how I count those in a second. This is also when the egg in a human will attach itself to the uterine wall. It'll do that in some cases 5 to 15 days, but Jesus would have done it on the perfect day. When did Jesus leave heaven? Did he leave heaven when he was born? No, he left heaven and left his rightful place at the right hand of the Father, his rightful place as God of the universe, creator of all things, to be a fetus and to come to earth to save us from ourselves. The first proof. The second proof, she travels. I did the math on how far she had to travel. It would take her approximately 7 days. She's just pregnant, so she's not, having a hard time. She's just now getting pregnant. The egg attaches to the uterine wall on the 7th day. Mary travels. When she gets there, John is now 6 months and 7 days in the womb, and he leaps for joy when Jesus is showing up. This is proof number 2. And where could it land? Where could it land? It could land anywhere, but where does it land? It lands on January the 1st. January the 1st is exactly when Mary shows up to see her cousin Elizabeth and give the good news. And John leaps in the womb, already starting his mission, which is to tell the world about the Messiah that is coming. He's already started doing it at 6 months and 1 week old. He's already starting to alert the world that Jesus is coming by leaping in the womb. And exactly 88 days after that day, January 1st, New Year's Day, what we would call in these days, December 25th and January 1st, meant nothing to them. Nothing. It doesn't match up with anything. But to us now, for us to see now, it means everything. It is 75 days, just like Abraham was 75 years old when he I think he entered somewhere at 75, but 75 days after January 1st is the day of equal parts. Exactly 75 days. January 1st to March 30th, the day Jesus went to the cross, is exactly 88 days. 8 and 8 is what we've been talking about as the circuit of the sun. Proof number 3. Jesus is born. Now, when I do the math from March the 16th, and March the 17th being the head of the year, Tabernacles begins, Sukkot, And what day does that fall on? It is the 197th day of the year, and it is September the 29th. It's Tishri 15. It's perfect. The next proof we have is number 4. Jesus must be circumcised 8 days later. This must also fall on an important day on the timeline. Mary's conceived December 25th, Christmas Day, Pentecost adds up to this comes out to be Pentecost, and this happens to be the day that Mary shows up to see her cousin Elizabeth, and John leaps in the womb. And here, number 4, Jesus is circumcised. This is the last day of tabernacles. If you put the conception of Jesus, you must use the 40 weeks. And if you do abide by the 40 weeks like you're supposed to, you could put it anywhere. You could put it where the flood ends. You could put it where Hanukkah. Everybody likes putting it on Hanukkah. If you put it on December the 7th, you will not land on, say, as a matter of fact, I think if you put it on December the 7th, if I recall correctly, it lands on Yom Kippur maybe, or Rosh Hashanah, what they were calling Rosh Hashanah, which is actually Feast of Trumpets. This is a very high time, people are thinking, but when you come down here, there's nothing 8 days later. It's 10 days. Rosh Hashanah lasts 2 days. You cannot do anything for those 2 days. You can't work or anything. You have to you have to relax. But Rosh Hashanah is not here. It is moved as of Exodus 12 by command of God to Moses. And so there's nothing that happens 8 days. So Jesus must be circumcised on an important day. He is circumcised on tabernacles. He had to have been conceived over here on December the 25th. We have not been celebrating a fake day for the last 2,000 years by accident. We have not been calling this the first day of the year, New Year's Day, by accident. This has happened on purpose. God worked in all of this. And proof number 5, I didn't write number 5, but proof number 5, that September the 29th is in fact the day that Jesus was born on Tabernacles. Jesus comes to Tabernacles with us. The blood moon on November the 8th, it was a blood moon until it eclipsed Uranus, and it went from the moment it eclipsed that planet, the moment it went over it, it went from blood red to pure white. What happens to a woman for 40 days? This is why I know we're in the time of the rapture right now, because you can't make this stuff up like Chad says over a Watchman on the Wall 88. You just can't make this stuff up. September the 29th, Jesus is born. She is unclean for 40 days when a male child is born, unclean. And after 40 days, her blood is gone and she is white again. She is clean after 40 days exactly. So that is what I'm seeing. Now, tomorrow, January the 28th, is the Festival of Trees. The Festival of Trees, Isaiah 53 was looking at that. That was a very high watch time for him. And so it very well could be. The Shavat 15 works out to be the 318th day of the year. When you start the year on March the 17th, it comes to January the 28th, tomorrow. And that is the Festival of Trees. Now, right here, this is what I'm looking at pretty closely, and it is still quite a ways away. I'm not happy about that, but again, I don't believe that the rapture has to wait for a special event. I believe that there are 7 feasts right now, and I think the 8th one is going to be given to the bride as the day that Jesus took us, and that could be any day. It doesn't have to fall on, I don't think it can really fall on a day that God has already ordained and set as a date that is important, feast day. I don't think it can, because I think this is a singular event. The rapture of the bride is a singular event that happens outside of those 7 feast days. And I think in heaven, that 8th feast will be celebrated to the bride. I think Jesus gives that to us as a day of celebration. So I do not believe that it's going to happen on a specific date. God will create an entirely new date that we should be watching. I kind of put February the 14th, Valentine's Day. Imagine if that's the day that God said, I love you and I'm taking you out of here. And he does that on February the 14th like I said back here, December the 25th. How did it work out to be that? I can't even make that up. I mean, how did it come out to December the 25th? When you do all the proofs of it happening and then you do the blood moon, how does it come out to this date? But it does. And January the 1st, the same thing. When she goes to meet her cousin Elizabeth, the same thing. How does it land? How does January the 1st land exactly 88 days to March the 30th? So is this a date that we've been celebrating? I mean, look, the year begins on March the 17th on St. Patrick's Day. I mean, how does that even happen? How does that happen? How does that even happen? So, it's like God moved them when they were building the Gregorian calendar in a direction that it would fall on specific dates. You will have Valentine's Day on February the 14th. What a day that would be, huh? What a day that would be. But again, we're just watching, right? We're just watching and trying to figure this out. Oh, I promised you the Pentecost. I'll show you the Pentecosts. A lot of people have a little bit of confusion about the Pentecosts. All right. Right here. Jesus' triumphant entry. He rode in on a donkey and a colt. 57 days later is Shavuot. Okay, this is technically the first Pentecost. The Bible records that Jesus went to the cross on a day. 3 days later, he rose. 7 days later, he meets Thomas in the upper room. Then he walks with mankind for 40 days and he ascends right here. 3 days later, he sends the Holy Spirit to us. This is the first day, is a Sunday. It is Shavuot. All the math works out perfectly, and as to the events that took place from the triumphant entry, 4 days, 3 days, 7 days, 40 days, and 3 days, all adding up to 57 days. And the proof of that will be, this is a Sunday. You count from the Sabbath after. What we're calling currently today is Saturday. The Sabbath after is 7 days away. Then you add 50 days. And it is always 57 days, and it always lands on the first day of the week. It always lands on a Sunday. The next Pentecost is on a Sunday, and that lands on July 17th. The next Pentecost is the first day. It's a Sunday, and it just so happens to be the very first day that God began creating everything on September the 11th. It is a Pentecost. You go another 57 days from there, and there was a lot of information there, so it seems to go further, but this is a Sunday. It's 57 days away. It's the first day of the week. It's a Sunday. It is a Pentecost, and this happens on November the 6th. This is why I didn't put the blood moon down, because I didn't understand how the blood moon even matched up, because I had November the 6th for Pentecost, and I had November the 10th for Noah leaving the ark. It made no sense to me, but he left the ark 1 year and 10 days later on November the 10th. So it made no sense to me until I don't know if I figured this out or somebody sent it to my attention. Somebody might have sent this to my attention. I get so many emails and stuff. I try to answer everything as much as I can, but September the 29th to November the 8th is 40 days. The next Pentecost, go another 57 days, and it lands on January the 1st. This is the day, Sunday, the first day Mary travels to see her cousin. The next Pentecost out, it doesn't exist. It does, but it lands on February the 27th, which is, again, I fall into that 1 day off thing. It's 58 days. I'm guessing that 1 day equals 48 hours. So this Purim might be a Pentecost, but I didn't want to state it for certain because I don't know where Joshua's long day falls. I know it falls in there somewhere, and it accounts for the 365 and a quarter days we have in a year. The reason I'm looking at Purim next, it is exactly 30 days before Passover. We know that Purim falls 30 days before Passover, and it is exactly 11 months and 11 days from the head of the year of March the 17th, and it falls on February the 28th. Adar 14. It is the 348th day of the year, and again falls on Purim. So I have a couple of high watch days that I'm looking at. We're looking at tomorrow, the Festival of Trees. Is it to be Shavat? Festival of Trees falls on the 318th day, Shavat 15, January 28th. The next one, Valentine's Day. It just so happens to appear on February the 14th. We don't know why. And I know you're all going to tell me this is a evil, wicked. Remember, God, these are all God's days. Whatever Satan did with whatever he wanted to call October the 31st as Halloween, that's fine. He can. It's like they say, I'm going to go build a table and show God how great I am because I can build a table. God's going to say, all right, go ahead and do it. But you can't do it with the tree that I created. This thought occurred to me earlier too. When did God begin to create man? We had to have the correct properties to do that. And so he had to have dirt because he created us from the dirt of the earth. So he created the dirt. I'd have to go back and look. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Yeah, so he created dirt on the first day. He formed man. He made man. He created man from something that he had created previously. It's the same thing as the table concept. You can't build a table if God hasn't created the tree. So Satan is trying to take over these dates, and what they mean, but God made the date. God made February the 14th. God made December the 25th. God made October the 31st. God chose certain things to happen on those days. So these are God's days, not Satan's. Satan did, whoops, what did I do? I did something wrong there. All right, let's go back just for a second here. So we're going to keep watching tomorrow for that horn blast. We're going to keep watching on Valentine's Day. We're going to keep watching on Purim. I really believe that before March the 16th, before the 75 days after the head of the year, of our year, Gregorian year, after 70 days, or 88 days to the cross, I believe that we have to go before March 16th personally. Will I be absolutely disappointed? Yes. I want this to happen. There we go. Whoops, I did that wrong. Let's see here. Let me try that again. There we go. So that's a lot of information. I don't know how long this thing went. Probably too long as usual. 6:11. That 11 keeps popping up. Just keeps popping up. That's why I like my phone because I do those screenshots. I can't put them on here. I guess I could transfer them. But anyway, not that computer savvy to be able to do all this. So hopefully this recorded because this has been a long video. Go to a quiet place by yourself. Nobody needs to know, and you don't need to tell anybody, and accept the Lord into your heart. When we say we're running out of time, we are not kidding. We are running out of time. Have we thought that we were running out of time 2 years ago? Yes, we did. Has so much more revelation came into us over the last 2 years. It's been incredible. And I'm amazed. I've been at this for a long time. And I'm not that smart when it comes to this stuff. I just like numbers and how they fall. That's kind of my thing. But you have people that had zero inclination for God whatsoever 2 years ago, knew nothing, and the Holy Spirit just did a download dump into their mind, and they know so much stuff. And I'm watching them, and I'm like, where were you at 35 years ago when I started to try to figure this out? Because they're spectacular and fantastic. And I suggest that you just, and if you firmly believe, like I do, that the tribulation is for salvation, and it's for bringing in the saints that are going to enter into tribulation. They're going to see these seals being opened. I kind of believe that they're going to be opened up in quick succession, and it's not going to be very long, perhaps 5 months, and that's why God shortens the time for them. God's direct attention will be pointed to Israel. That's where he's going to direct his attention, is Israel. It is not the saints plus Israel. The Bible is clear. In those 7 years, he's pointing his direction to the Jewish people at that point. So firmly believe that we're going to go, that they're going to follow in pretty quick succession after 6 days, maybe 6 seals, 6 days, 6 seals, 5 months. I don't know. But they're going. And that's why when you get to heaven and you're standing there and looking around and you're missing somebody, Jesus is going to hug you and say, it's okay. Just relax. They're coming. I haven't forgotten them, and I am going to save them, but they're just something we had to wash away. And that's why they show up and wash white robes, wash their robes white in the blood of Christ. They are the thief on the cross. They are not Barabbas. Barabbas is the bride. They are the thief on the cross. They had to ask. That's why the thief didn't have to do anything except say it. That's all he had to do was say it. Remember me today. Remember me when you get to heaven. Jesus said, today I tell you, you will be with me in paradise. The bride goes to the third heaven. The saints go to paradise. It's heaven. They go to heaven. It's there's a select group of the elect. So it's hard to fathom. But can you imagine getting there and realizing that God is just going to beat up somebody that you love very much because they just wouldn't listen to you, spouse, children, whatever. They just wouldn't listen to you. And he's just going to beat them up and then throw them into hell. Come on. That's not even you. There's no parent in the world that would do that to their own child. That's not what's happening. He's going to discipline them. He's going to chastise them. They're going to realize, and they're going to be just like Elisha. They're going to drop to their knees. They're going to tear off that world, and they're going to put on the mantle of Jesus Christ, and they're going to go to heaven. So nobody's left behind. There is no partial rapture. It is one big rapture that lasts over a period of time. That's why the door of the ark stayed open. We have the example of 7 days, but that ark door will stay open until the last one is brought in. And that's what the Bible teaches very clearly. So don't believe in if you're not raptured, you're going to hell. You're not raptured, and you're going to get beat up for 7 years and then cast into hell. That's not even there's just no way. So remember to like, comment, share this, and subscribe. I believe very much so, whether mine makes it through into the tribulation or other people's do, subscribe to as many of these types of YouTubes that you can. I'm watching and I promote as many people as I can. I'm subscribed to over 200, and I keep finding more. I'm shocked. They put them in my Discord, and I'm like, I've never seen this person before. So there are groups like ours where we're all talking, but there's other groups just like ours that are just as bigger, smaller, and they're talking and putting all this together. God is working with all of us. And are we all 100% correct? The answer to that is no, only God's correct, but we're going to continue to watch and try to figure it out. So like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel and as many others as you can, because I believe, especially the sharing and the liking, because all the likes create an algorithm that puts it out there into the web so that it can't be scrubbed that easily. And others, once they share it, others will see it. And like I said, I'm not interested in myself or numbers or anything like that. My channel has grown exponentially. I can't even fathom why Can't even fathom why, but it does. And it's got to be, of course, it's God. It's God that's growing the channel. But I don't make a dime off of this, and I just do this out of a labor of love and trying to bring you as much information as I can. But subscribe to as many others as you can and pray that they make it through, and the saints of the tribulation and even the Jews that will come into the millennium can see these videos, and they're going to be like, oh, and they're going to be a greater group of watchers than we ever were. We're just kind of 2,000 years ago, he died on the cross, and we believe it and we know it. Of course, it happened, and we know this rapture is going to happen. Everybody else is kind of 8 billion people are just kind of laughing at you. It's not going to happen. It doesn't exist. They're about to learn a valuable lesson. They're about to be chastised. But, and so we're just a very select, small group of people. But if it can make it through, if some of these videos could make it through the rapture into the tribulation, and the saints and the Jews see it, and it could help them out so much to understand what's going on, exactly what's happening to them. And I've left notes all over my house. I have a little bit of food and water here for them, and so that they know. You don't have to do much. I mean, if just all of us just left a note saying, this is what happened, don't take the mark, don't follow the beast, and pray, because the only thing you have now is Jesus. There's nothing left. All you have is Jesus. So anyway, Repo Man 64, we will chat with you later.